Good afternoon. You would have seen all the problems at the University of Fort Hare over the weekend. Another bodyguard dying while driving a car in what's been described as highly suspicious circumstances. Also, a group of people in court this week for their alleged involvement in corruption at the university. News today from the National Tertiary Education Union about something that's happened to one of their members. Grant Abbott is their General Secretary. Grant, good afternoon to you. We've heard so much about the corruption at this university. How's it affecting one of your members in particular?
Hi, good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to your viewers. And thank you for the opportunity. Yes, our press conference earlier today outlined the human rights abuses that had taken place in an incident last week, Sunday and Monday, where one of our members was kidnapped and tortured, taken to an undisclosed location in what appears to have been a interrogation related to the ongoing investigation at Fort Hare. What is of significant concern to us, and that is why we held the press conference today, is that in this current dispensation where we are in 2023, we shouldn't be talking about this sort of human rights abuses still happening in South Africa. It's not just a normal interrogation in the course of events. What happened was horrific. It was terrible, and happened to one of our members. And we're just saying it cannot continue any further. So that is why we called our press conference today.
Grant, you're going to have to go back a little bit on this one. Who did this kidnapping?
So as far when they came to our members' home last week, they identified themselves as members of the SAPS. And that's why we did the investigation to see how far this went, and handed over what we have has already been handed over to our or to the prosecuting authority, and we've also informed the Department of Justice and IPID.
Okay, so Grant, just so that I understand exactly what's going on here, you're suggesting that people who say they were members of the SAPS, and I presume investigating what? Investigating some of the alleged corruption that we've seen, that they kidnapped your member illegally, interrogated them illegally, and then what happened? Released them?
Yeah, there was torture. He was tortured, physically hurt and put in pain for up to 7 hours at a undisclosed location. They took him away from his home and effectively kidnapped him. And that's what has taken place. He's retained. He told him that he denied everything, that he knew nothing about what was going on, and that what he had been subject to was inhumane human rights abuses, inhumane treatment.
Do you know for sure that there were police officers? So much has happened at the University of Fort Hare. You know, I hate to say it, but it could almost be anyone. Are you sure it was the police?
Well, that's the thing. They identified themselves as the police, but obviously the investigation that has to take place that'll all come out of that. As far as we know, it could well be a rogue unit within the security forces.
And the management at the University of Fort Hare, Professor Sakile Buhlungu himself has, of course, faced threats against his life, attacks on his life. Have you spoken to him about this? Is he aware of it?
We have not spoken to him. Again, the purpose of what we were highlighting is the human rights abuses that took place, the torture that took place, the very fact that in our constitutional democracy we can be where we are today. So we have not been directly in contact with him yet. But our member did inform his line manager in the institution.
Grant, I'm a little confused here. Okay, I would presume that the first thing, I mean, we all know the situation at Fort Hare. Well, we think we understand it. And we've all seen, you know, the Vice-Chancellor's in charge. From what we can see, he's trying to run a clean-up operation. And that the police, that he would be someone who would want to know about this. I imagine he would be very upset. We've seen how emotional he can be when something's happened to his workers in the past.
I'm sure. But remember, Stephen, what is also there, and we've said this in previous interviews, is a culture of fear. So this is why we had, through our attorney, started this preliminary investigation just to see how far we were going here. We don't know what the end result is. What we have discovered so far, we've then handed over to the authorities, and they must do what they need to do. And whether we phone and inform the Vice Chancellor or not is immaterial right now. He now would know, obviously. So, yeah, that's our position on that at the moment. The investigation must take its course, and the perpetrators must be brought to book. And that's what we want to see have happen and come out of this situation. Incidentally, it's not just our member. We know of, during the investigation, that there are other people who have faced the same thing, and we don't know if they are even employees of the institution.
So, Grant, just so that I don't misunderstand you, are you suggesting that what could be happening is that the people who are investigating the corruption are overreaching and engaging in violence themselves?
We don't know. That's the whole point. Is whether that is or is not the case, that's what must come out of the investigation, and that's what needs to be done by the relevant authorities. So we don't want to make any assumptions or any assertions of our own. What we wanted to highlight today is that there is definitely forces at play here that should not be at play, that could themselves place the investigation in jeopardy.
Grant Abbott, thank you very much indeed. General Secretary for the National Tertiary Education Union. Well, the situation at the University of Fort Hare seeming to take a different turn. We'll try and find out as much information as we can about it. I'm sure there'll be developments around it in the near future.